Did the Alaska highway break our rig?
Well, that's a common question we get from viewers, and it's also a very common topic on the RVing to Alaska forums and Facebook groups. We are Terry and Cindy O'Keefe, and we've been camping together for more than 40 years. And we invite you to join us as we share our latest RVing experiences and adventures.
It's been said that towing your trailer down the road exposes it to the equivalent of a 4.0 earthquake. Taking it to Alaska? Well, you might want to increase that Richter scale reading. So, we're going to go through what our 2022 Rockwood 2109S encountered, and then provide some ideas on how to deal with it or prevent it.
So, yes, some things did come loose. In fact, some screws fell right out. And these are the ones that we found rolling around on the floor. And we still don't know where they came from.
Perhaps the worst case was the screws that hold our microwave in place. They came loose, and thankfully we noticed it before the whole thing came tumbling down. In our oven, the screws vibrated loose and the whole burner actually fell right out. Even the screws securing our sofa loosened off.
And the microwave and oven weren't the only appliances that developed some problems. After a long day of travel, we opened the trailer door, came in and found out that the lock that secured the fridge door had actually failed. It had fallen on the floor. The fridge door had opened, and all the food was rolling around on the floor of the trailer, including a large jug of maple syrup. And by the time we got home, the fridge had developed a lean because the mounting screws at the bottom had stripped. And if things are bouncing around in your fridge, the same thing is going on in your cupboards. For us, it was worse in the cupboards on the back wall of the trailer because that area is exposed to the most violent movement going over frost heaves and bumps.
So we quickly learned after a long drive to stand back, open the door, and put the hand here to try and catch anything that might fall, so we didn't have a can of tuna or a can of soup landing on our toes. Everything is exposed to bouncing and shaking, including electrical components. For example, our awning quit working when a connector came undone, and one of the tire pressure sensors on the trailer came undone and actually started rolling around inside the tire, triggering just about every alarm the system had.
This is one of the bolts that keeps the trailer body secured to the frame. And one last issue we didn't discover until we returned home, a couple of the bolts that hold the trailer box, the floor, walls, and roof to the frame, had started to loosen. So after we get that one tightened, we're going to add a lock nut on behind it just to keep it from backing off again. Factory one's tightened back down, and we've added the lock nut so it's not going to loosen back off.
So how can you prevent some of these things from happening? Well, in the fridge, we did put in some bars, and they really helped a lot. So they're going to prevent things from coming forward. That was very successful. And then we replaced our fridge lock with an extra coupler that we had, and it's worked really well. And we also added these same bars to our cupboards, and it really helped things from falling out as well. We quickly added a couple of the multi-bit screwdrivers to our cutlery drawer, so they were really easy to access. And every couple of days after a long drive, we'd just spend 10 or 15 minutes tightening every screw we could find. And that included in places you might not think about, like the water heater or the frames around the windows. And you should also keep an extra supply of all different types of screws, nuts, washers on board in case you find things are missing and you need to replace them, or if a screw's fallen out and stripped the hole and you need a bigger screw.
And another issue you're almost guaranteed to encounter is dust. So obviously keeping the roof vents and windows closed. And when I say vents, I'm also talking about the exhaust vent for your stove. Really good, you know, if you're driving through construction zones and gravel roads, that's going to help keep the dust out of your rig. But we also anticipated there was going to be so much dust on the top of the world highway and places like that. We were going to get dust coming in from underneath the trailer, particularly here. That's the top of the wheel well, that black that you see there. So we took some spray sealant and sealed all through there and in that hole where all the wiring and piping was running before we left, and that worked really well. We got no dust coming in underneath the slide there, but the wheel well on the other side of the trailer is underneath that stove, and we just didn't have time to get to that before we left on our trip. And I will tell you, we got a lot of dust coming in there, and we had to clean that stove out quite a few times. The oven just filled with dust from what was creeping in around that wheel well.
We also recommend not to travel with anything heavy inside your sink. We didn't have any issues, but we had heard from others who did this, and the entire undermounted sink actually fell out.
Another challenge you might face is having cabinet doors and drawers come open while you're traveling. And you may have noticed in some other shots this ugly blue cord and brown hair scrunchie hanging here, but we actually found that this was an excellent way to keep these open. And this was a drawer that kept opening on us, and we simply installed a child-proof lock, and we didn't have any more problems with doors or drawers opening underway. These are big frost heaves, but they're gentle at least. Of course, catching issues early is always best. So every time you stop, do a quick walk around your rig and check for problems. And it's vital to have a good toolkit and electrical meter. We keep ours in our truck so it's available even when we're not towing. Now, we didn't want to scare anyone with that opening montage. 99% of the roads are not like that, and it's quite spectacular. But it is that 1% that can cause problems for you. And the easiest way to prevent that is to slow down. Look for signs, orange flags or pylons, or wavy road markings that indicate frost heaves, broken sections of road, or potholes.
Our 6 tips for driving the ALCAN also has more advice on this, and you will see a link to this below.
And finally, one thing that you should do, inspect your rig before you leave. Try and identify any vulnerabilities it might have, especially the tires and suspension.
If your tires are questionable, replace them before leaving, because trying to find a new set in the remoteness of the Yukon might be a challenge. And ensure your suspension, particularly springs and hangers, are up to the task.
Before we left, we purchased an extra tire for both our truck and trailer. We also reinforced the supports for our water tank because we knew we'd be boondocking and traveling long distances with a full tank. And we had a protective film called Clearplex applied to our trailer's windshield to protect it from rock damage. And we added a tow flap to the back of the truck to protect the front of the trailer. We did a separate video on that tow flap and how well it worked for us, and we'll also add a link to that in the description below. To wrap it up, when you consider the length of the drive to Alaska and the conditions you're going to encounter on some sections of the ALCAN, Klondike, Taylor, McCarthy, or top of the world highways, you should expect some things to go wrong or break, and try to be prepared to deal with them.
So, to answer the question, yes, the trip technically broke our rig going to Alaska, but nothing serious, and we would not hesitate to do it again.
It was a great adventure. If you found this information helpful, please remember to hit those like and subscribe buttons. It does help us to grow the channel. And have a great time planning your awesome trip to Alaska.